Welcome everybody to episode 3 of Heavy Metal Horror Show. Cheers to that.
Yes, sir.
In today's episode, we're going to talk about one of the greatest horror movie franchises that ever existed, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's just so incredibly awesome. Still to this day, it's one of the best, you know.
Absolutely, man. I can't wait to get into this one.
Yeah. There's a lot behind it, right?
Yeah, and it brings back so many memories of you know, being just scared out of my mind as a little kid, you know.
Right. We're probably way too young to watch these movies when we watched them, but
we loved it.
But we loved them
kept
anyway.
Going back, you know. Going
Yeah.
back to the movie rental places and straight to the horror section.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yep.
Horror and kung fu movies was my jam as a kid.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And of course, Garbage Pail Kids, but that's a whole different ball game. So,
Also awesome.
yeah.
Well, there's a lot behind this, and you know, for a long time I wondered, you know, where did Wes Craven get this idea from? Because it's so just different, right, than any other horror movie. Because
Such a cool concept.
yeah, like here you have a villain who you can't really, you know, avoid, because if you go to sleep, you're dead.
Yeah.
You know, or you could be dead, right?
Yeah. And,
So,
and nobody wants to believe it, you know, because
Yeah.
it's all in your dreams. So you know, all the parents are like, you know,
Yeah. Kind of hard to prove, right?
yeah.
Well, in the early '80s, Wes Craven was looking for new ideas, and he wanted to create something original yet really, you know, horrifying, scary, and all this stuff. And then he found an article in the LA Times about a boy who had suffered violent nightmares, only to die in his sleep, and that's when he began sort of developing the concept for Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
The article in the LA Times was about a family who had escaped the killing fields in Cambodia. And, you know, apparently the young son had really disturbing nightmares, and he didn't want to go to sleep. He told his parents that if I go to sleep, this thing that's after me is going to kill me. And, you know, over some time, the parents thought that everything was okay until one night he went to sleep, and then they heard screaming, you know, from the other room. And then they immediately went to go check on him, and he had passed away in his sleep. It's pretty scary that this was a real thing that happened.
Yeah.
That Wes Craven was able to sort of morph into Nightmare on Elm Street, right?
Mm-hmm.
But his death wasn't the only one. Craven found more articles about the sleep-induced deaths of the Hmong refugees that fled genocide from Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And it was so prevalent for a short time that they actually called it Asian death syndrome, which afflicted men usually between like 19 and 57 years old. Big range, right?
Yeah.
But and then later on, it became known as unexpected nocturnal death syndrome. Although the medical research doesn't really tell us, you know, what that period, how those things happened in that period. We still really don't have a full grasp of why that happened. So, but that's where the concept came from.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street, and that led to, you know, a lot of movies after it, right? I mean, you have Nightmare on Elm Street, which is the first one. We had Part 2, which is Freddy's Revenge. Part 3, Dream Warriors. What was Part 4 again?
Part 4 was the Dream Master.
Dream Master, yeah. Then we had Part 5 was Dream Child.
Yeah.
And then Freddy's Dead, the Final Nightmare. And then after that,
New Nightmare.
New Nightmare.
Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Yeah, and that was the one where all the characters came back with their real names, and they were sort of like filming a movie inside of a movie. I think. Yeah. And then Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, that movie was so great.
That was really great. Yeah.
I loved every second of that movie.
Yeah, we'll get into Jason on another episode for sure. Another iconic horror movie villain for sure. But I don't know about you, but you know, when I was a kid, this one really freaked me out. I even had the costume when I was a kid with the gloves and the mask and the hat and everything.
Oh,
yeah. I forgot which grade I was in, but yeah, we had a good time with it for sure.
Yeah, that was definitely a good one, man. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your first impression of it as a kid? Like when you first saw it, do you remember like what you thought?
I'm not going to sleep. Never going to sleep again.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. It's, I don't know, man. I remember it being, just scary as hell. And for some reason, like the scene where she's running up the stairs, but she's like melting into it.
Oh,
She can't run.
yeah.
Because that's such a relatable scene, I think. Because if you have a dream that you're running, most of the time you feel like you're barely moving.
It's in
It's
slow
so
motion,
hard to
yeah.
run, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I mean, that kind of freaked me out as a kid, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Same. I could say the same.
Yeah.
And yeah, the thing that really well, part of the thing that really freaked me out was just the fact that they had to stay up for days on end, and then knowing that I felt the tension that they felt in the movie
Yeah.
as a kid, and I also didn't want to go to sleep for a while.
Mhm.
I tried to stay up late and stuff like that. But yeah, it was definitely a different concept. It was so different than anything else that had been released.
Yeah.
I think until this day, I don't know of any other horror movie villain that has the capability of going into your dreams and killing you. Is there one that you know of?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's something out there that we don't know about or we're
Yeah.
not thinking about, but
Yeah.
definitely not on that level. To be able to squeeze out, 8 movies and a remake.
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Right.
over that period of time, it's just
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah. And if you haven't seen these, if you're in like your teens or 20s and you haven't seen anything from Nightmare on Elm Street,
What are you doing with your life?
yeah, what are you doing with your life? Yeah, check it out because it really does hold up to today's standards. I mean, it's different, right? Because just like we said, in the last episode, well, in episode 1, it wasn't a whole lot of CGI back then, but God, was it good?
Yeah,
It was really good. It took hours and hours and hours just to apply Robert Englund's makeup, and all the latex and everything for this movie. I mean, it was really.
I think it was like 6 hours a day. I think is what he put in, just sitting in the chair, letting the special effects guys go to work with a makeup artist.
Yeah.
I think I read that he had like 11 different pieces that had to be,
Yeah,
glued
that
and
sounds
molded,
right. Yeah, definitely a labor of love, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty insane.
Labor of glove. No.
Yeah, there's definitely some there's definitely a lot of scary parts in this movie, and lots of comedy relief too, which is kind of cool,
That makes it too.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I didn't pick up on a whole lot of it, because I think, going back to what you were asking about, when I was younger and watching it, like those old 80s style phones, and then to see the bottom of the phone turn into his face and there's like a tongue coming out of it. That was just creepy as hell as a kid, but looking back, it's just so funny, man.
And you're afraid of phones too.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Like, why can I see the insides of this phone? Does this phone have to be clear? Sorry. I hated clear phones.
God. So, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Go watch them all. It's the perfect horror movie series or franchise to binge watch. It's so incredibly awesome. Not only did Robert Englund star in all the movies, but he also had a show that was on TV for a while. It was like a limited series. Yeah, Robert Englund really did get into the role. A lot of what he said in all the movies was just improv, and they decided to leave a lot of it in.
Wow.
And in this one time, I read that they shot all day, and he was really tired, and so he left all of his makeup on and everything, his whole costume on, and then went out to have dinner, and he just left it on, and he said that like people were just freaking out over it. So I know he got a kick out of that, but he was really, I don't know, he really loved what he did.
I mean, and I get it, dude, because I've I kind of mentioned it a little bit in the last episode about working in haunted houses. Here, like House of Shock and then Torment at Tom's Farm.
Yeah.
And and that's just like, just a couple times, a month or so a year. But to be able to play a role and be an iconic character.
Oh God.
That the whole world pretty much knows or should know.
Yeah.
And to go out and just mess with people at a restaurant. And then you have people that are like, I'm sure some of those people probably didn't think for a second that was really him,
Right.
Or maybe they I don't know, did he let him know, hey, I'm the real deal?
No. In fact, one person in the diner, I read this on the interweb, so I can't quote like a source or anything, but I read that one person at the diner, I think it was a diner they went to, didn't know about Freddy Krueger at all because it was relatively new at the time.
Yeah.
And this guy freaked the hell out because he thought that he was really burned.
Wow.
Stuff. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of funny. I wish I could have been there for that.
Yeah, that's so cool.
But I did look up some facts about the movie that I thought were pretty cool. So now it's time for HMHS. Did you know?
Sorry, I don't know what that was. But that was fireworks going off. And, woo! Here we go.
We're going to get pyrotechnics. We're just a little short on the budget right now. It's coming next year, maybe.
Is that a short joke?
So the movie actually had a budget of $1.1 million, and it made $57.1 million.
Come again.
Yeah.
Say that one more time.
So they made like $56 million on part one. That's quite the return.
Yeah, I think they did all right.
They did all right,
No wonder they got 9 movies out of it.
Right. Also, it was Johnny Depp's first movie debut.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's crazy.
That's pretty cool,
man.
you know. I mean, he's got a long line of really awesome movies, particularly, the Tim Burton movies, and I like Pirates of the Caribbean as well. So
yeah, it's it's not my favorite character, but I can sit there and like kind of watch it, and he did a great job at what he was doing in that movie.
Right. Also, it was shot in 32 days, the whole movie, beginning to end.
And they made that much money.
Yeah, in 32 days. Yeah,
off of a movie inspired by dreams.
Yeah,
recorded in 32 days.
Yeah,
it made $52 million. Dude.
Yep.
Wow. Good job, Wes.
Yeah, good job. So during casting, it came down to Johnny Depp, who was then 21 years old, and one other actor to play Glenn, in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Wes Craven was a little torn. So what he did was he asked his teenage daughter, which one he should pick, and she picked Johnny Depp.
Oh yeah, and that's how figure.
And that's how we got the role.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty funny. And you were talking about the part where Nancy's trying to escape Freddy by walking up the stairs, but she kept on getting stuck. Well, guess what they used for the infills of the stairs?
I would guess the same Gorilla Glue that girl used to glue her hair to her head a couple years back. No? Okay.
They used a mixture of oatmeal and pancake batter. That's what's sticking to her feet as she's walking up the steps.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Pancakes will never be the same.
I know.
Man. That's crazy.
Yeah. And
who makes them that thick, by the way? I don't know.
They did.
Oh, it worked. $52 million. You can't argue.
You can't argue with it, So this part I had to type out a little bit because it's hard to keep the facts straight. Mm-hmm. But it's a really cool example of how directors sort of support each other. So in the movie, in Nightmare on Elm Street, when Nancy's watching a movie to try to stay awake, it's actually Sam Raimi's Evil Dead. That's what she's watching when she's trying not to fall asleep.
Yeah. Wow.
So Craven did that because Raimi had previously included a poster of Craven's second film, The Hills Have Eyes, in a scene in The Evil Dead.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then Raimi returned the favor by hiding Freddy's knife glove in a scene in the tool shed in Evil Dead 2.
Damn. Now I got to go back and watch that.
I know.
So that'll be some upcoming episodes, I'm sure.
Yeah, I never did notice that glove in Evil Dead 2. I know I've seen it before.
Yeah.
but I don't remember that for some reason. So
yeah, and I had no idea. When I was younger, I haven't seen those movies in a long time, and I don't really pay attention much to directors and who, like, I just go for the entertainment usually. And now I'm looking more into those behind the scenes type things.
Right.
But I had no idea that that Sam Raimi had done those. The first thing that I remember that he had done was I believe he did the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, like that franchise with Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah, I think. Pretty sure he was the director for that.
Okay.
So
check us if we're wrong.
Yeah.
If he's wrong, he said it. I didn't say it.
I've been wrong once before, once or twice. I mean, but yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And it's cool to hear those kind of stories that directors are doing that kind of stuff with, to help each other out in their own movies and hiding Easter eggs, as you would call them, I guess.
Right.
I try to do that with bands. There's a lot of times when, we'll be out going to a show or playing a show, whatever, and I'll wear like unknown bands t-shirts. Right. Like on episode 2, if you guys didn't catch it, I'll point it out now. I was wearing a shirt from a band called Artifice from Jackson, Tennessee, just outside of Memphis, and super cool dudes, awesome music, And,
very cool music.
And I get that, like that means so much more to me hearing that story, because we do that, and we try to help each other out.
That's awesome.
Coming from a lower level, trying to break out. So hearing that they did that too, it's just awesome. Getting goosebumps thinking about it. So
yeah, it's the right thing to do.
It is, man. It certainly is. No, got to help each other out, because if you don't, who will?
So you mentioned Artifice being a semi local band, but there are a lot of other there's a lot of other really talented bands that are local to Louisiana.
Definitely. Before we move on to that, though, now it's my turn for a little Did You Know?
What?
Yeah, man.
What?
I got a couple for you.
All right. Okay.
So, did you know the scene? I won't give it away in case there's like somebody who's 105 watching this and they haven't had a chance to see it yet, or maybe you're only 5 and you haven't seen it yet. But there's a scene where somebody dies.
Okay.
And there's it's a bed scene. And there's an insane amount of blood that just comes pouring, shooting up, I guess, not pouring out. Do you know what inspired that scene?
No, I don't.
The elevator scene from The Shining.
Really?
Yeah, when the elevator's open and it floods with blood.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what gave Wes that idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So, in order to create the infamous spark scenes when he's dragging his gloves across things and they're sparking.
Yeah.
Do you know how they created that?
I always thought it was just metal on metal. I thought it was real. It's not?
Somewhat. So they actually hooked up a car battery to the glove and then scraped it on metal.
They were making sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean,
that's so cool.
I don't know if OSHA probably wasn't around back then.
Probably not.
They probably broke all kind of codes. But
it's probably frowned upon to do that.
Oh yeah. And the screeching sound that you hear when he's doing that, that iconic sound that everybody, like, if you hear it, you know what movie it is.
Yeah.
He actually created that sound. Wes created it by miking up and recording himself dragging a steak knife on a bottom side of a metal lawn chair. Like,
really?
Yeah. So it's cool to hear all this kind of stuff.
That's so cool. So, yeah.
It's not CGI. It's not,
It's not artificial. It's all real. Like it's all
It's kind of like when you see people from back in the old days with black and white movies, and they're recording thunder scenes, and they got the sheet metal.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff is awesome.
It is awesome.
Just thinking outside of a box to get
Yeah.
what you hear in your head to come across.
That is really cool.
You know, it's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah.
Tina, she's the first death scene in the Nightmare on Elm Street series franchise. She's the first one to croak.
That's true. I never thought about that.
And you know, the scene where she's getting drug up the wall,
yeah.
floating, and goes on the ceiling and stuff. They created that by, and it's something I never really haven't thought about, you know, but they actually created that by Wes having them design a room that was rotating. And I guess the videographer had a chair. It actually, from what I read, it was like an airplane chair that was fixed along with the room. So I guess it spun with it. But so I guess she was kind of stationary. And they spun a room around her, but they had everything nailed down so it wouldn't fall or move.
God, that's cool. Inexpensive.
Yeah. Well, and they did it inexpensively because it was not mechanical. It was so low budget, I guess, that they made it. I guess where it must have been on some kind of a bearing system or something.
Okay.
Like an axle, maybe.
Yeah.
And the crew was on each side, and when they were ready to film, they were pulling it down to make it spin. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Wow.
Thought that was cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah. And then we kind of mentioned the ninth movie a little bit, which was the remake.
Yeah.
You know, it's well done. It was a good movie. Now you're gonna drink. It's not my favorite. It was very, very well done. Jackie Earle was awesome, and I think it was too serious. Like it took all the fun, comedic atmosphere out of it.
It did,
I think.
Yeah.
So it was too realistic for me. But the cool thing, there's two cool things about that movie, in my opinion.
Okay.
One of them is pretty biased. So the biased one is, it happened to be released in 2010. I saw it on the day that it released in 2010 on my birthday. So April 30th.
Wow.
Saw it in the theaters in Memphis. Yeah.
Huh.
So
I'm surprised your mom let you when you were only 10.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate that. 100. So yeah, so that's that was pretty cool fact, in my opinion.
That is cool.
But
cool.
What made this movie a little bit more okay in my book now, and this makes, I think you'll appreciate this.
We'll see.
So when they were doing the casting for the very first movie, and the one that was released in '84, there were obviously multiple people who tried out to be Freddy Krueger.
Okay.
One of the people who tried out was Jackie Earle Haley. And Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund got it over Jackie Earle, which Jackie Earle played Freddy Krueger in the remake. So it took him like 26 years later, but he finally got the part.
Wow.
So that's
amazing.
Yeah. See, it makes you think about it a little different.
That really is cool, though. Yeah.
So so a takeaway from that.
And I really didn't know that until just now. I'm not faking it. Like.
Yeah.
We don't share these before the show.
Yeah. I found that out earlier.
That's neat.
And I was like, I got to put this in there because I think you'd appreciate it. And I was kind of like trying to hide my notes from you earlier. So.
It definitely makes me feel a little bit better about the remake without Robert Englund in it,
Yeah. And
he is Freddy,
I bet. I wonder how Robert would feel about it. Like I wonder. I'm sure he probably would support it. Maybe
Yeah.
Because in that situation, why not? Like support somebody, like pat him on the back, like you. Yeah. He's Jackie Earle has done many years since or before then.
Yeah.
But if that's any indication, 26 years later, that you never ever Give up on your dream.
The dreams that you had you could do so you want him to do you so much you could do anything.
Jackie Earl. Before we move on, give him props because I've been watching the show on Netflix. It's not amazing, but it's called Preacher. It's a pretty cool concept, you know. And,
Okay.
And Jackie Earl is in that.
Is it horror?
It's it's definitely like kind of thriller vibe.
I have to check it out.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool concept. Real quick snapshot of that. It's this dude who like moves back to a town that he grew up in. His dad used to be a preacher.
Okay.
He was kind of like a little badass, left home, grew up a little bit, he came home, and now he's the town's preacher.
Oh, wow.
But there's this thing that kind of comes from outer space and kind of lands in him. It seems like it's out of space. So he's like got all these powers. I think it's from heaven or whatever. So he's got like all these powers, like godlike powers, and thinks he's a chosen one and he's making things happen, and all kind of crazy stuff is going on in the background. It's good, man. It's worth killing some time to watch.
And it's called what? Preacher?
Preacher.
On Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah,
I'll check it out.
Yeah. I think you'd like it.
Yeah.
And then one other mention, he was in Semi-Pro. So.
Really?
Yeah.
I do not remember that.
He's the guy that Will Ferrell's character, Jackie Moon. You know, he's trying to get more people to come to his games and everything because he's got to sell tickets. And you know, I don't remember the money amount, like $20,000, say. You know, he's like, you know, whoever can make this shot from half court wins this money. And then he looks around and he points to Jackie Earl's character, this guy, his name's Dukes, and he's like, he's just like a burnout, and he's all drunk and just sitting there and standing. He's like, "You, come on!" And he's like, "There's no way this guy's gonna make it." You know? He can't hardly stand up, and he's just like, boom, nothing but net.
Damn.
So yeah.
Wow.
So he writes him the check, you know, and it's like one of those big fake checks or whatever.
Yeah.
And he gives it to him, and later on in the movie, he comes back. I'm giving all this away. I don't care.
That's all right.
Yeah, so he comes back. He's got this big old check, and Jackie Moon is like, you know, what do you need? And he's like, man, they won't cash this check. You know, it's like a giant check. And he was like, and he just tells him, oh, you got to try a bigger bank. Anyway. That's my star.
That's my star.
Jackie Earl.
Cool. That's cool.
That's my did you knows.
Well, you mentioned the scene about about all the blood coming out of the bed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was Johnny Depp, right? In that scene, it wasn't. It was somebody. It was one of the characters.
It was, but I was trying not to spoil it.
Well, we'll cut right there. All right. All right, 3, 2, 1. So you mentioned the scene about all the blood coming out of the bed, like kind of spewing out of the bed when one of the characters died in the movie, right?
Right.
Well, that scene was actually shot upside down, and that also didn't include any CGI.
Oh, yeah.
So they had one shot to get it right, because all that blood it was real, like red liquid, and when they poured it through, they had one shot to get it right because they essentially ruined the set.
Oh wow, yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
That would suck to have to rebuild all that.
Yeah, but that's true. It's real liquid falling down, but they flipped it to make it shoot up, and it actually pretty much ruined the set.
Yeah, wow.
So they got in they had one shot to get it right.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know that Freddy was named after a bully in Wes Craven's elementary school?
No.
Apparently he got beat up by some other bully named Freddy. And I guess he held a grudge all those years. And,
so he called him Freddy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And then there was I think it was some old drunk guy that lived in the neighborhood that always wore that same kind of hat.
Really?
And the guy always creeped him out. So it's cool to hear like how he took all these pieces of the puzzle and made his own puzzle and made an empire out of it, you know. That's crazy, man.
That's insane. Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.